Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name is Jenny van der Meeberg and I'm a trade advisor at the Australian Trade Commission. Today I'll be presenting an overview of the Malaysian market and touch on some of the opportunities for vegetable exporters who might be considering doing business in Malaysia. Malaysia is an economic success story with uninterrupted growth since British independence in 1957. It is one of Asia's fastest growing economies and it's located at the centre of Asia's high growth markets. With a population of just under 29 million, it has 7% average GDP growth for 25 years, making it one of 13 countries in the world to achieve such a growth rate. It's transformed itself into an upper middle class economy in a single generation. And it's weathered financial storms and global economic upheavals to become one of the most developed countries in the ASEAN region. The economy has been boosted in recent years by robust government development programs and strong domestic demand. And most quoted number in Malaysia these days is 2020, which is when the country hopes to achieve developed nation status. Interestingly, Malaysia is also the 8th most affordable destination in the world according to TripAdvisor Trip Index in 2013, which means for exporters considering Malaysia, you should make every effort to visit the market regularly. Ease of doing business sheds light on how easy or difficult it is for a local entrepreneur to open and run a small to medium-sized business when complying with relevant regulations. It measures and tracks changes in regulations affecting 11 areas in the life cycle of a business. And as you can see from the table on the screen, Malaysia ranks 6th globally for the ease of doing business, which is really quite impressive. And it ranks 2nd in the ASEAN region. So again, for Australians looking to export, Malaysia is certainly one of the easier markets to target as far as regulation is concerned. To help propel Malaysia to developed nation status, the government has targeted 12 key sectors to drive economic activity. You can see those sectors on the slide. Austrade in Kuala Lumpur is developing initiatives across many of these areas to help position Australian businesses for potential opportunities that will arise. And in the food and agri sector, we are focused on tourism, wholesale retail and agriculture developments. So you can see those as number 4, 7 and 11 on the slide there. As an aside, interestingly, a common theme across all the sectors is a shortage of human talent. In the agri sector, this presents an opportunity for Australian consultants who can provide solutions in farm management, soil management, precision agriculture, research and services, information technology and software, and education and training. Malaysia is a significant trading partner for Australia. Australia's trading relationship with Asia has grown and developed over the last 60 years. In the early mid-1900s, most of our trade was with Europe and the Americas, and trade with Asia was only about 10 to 15%. Asia now represents around 60% of our global trade. Whilst Europe and the US still continue to be important to our economy, Australia's trading relationships with the fastest growing nations of Asia are growing at a faster rate. As you can see on the slide, 8 out of our top 10 export markets are in Asia. Malaysia is Australia's 3rd largest trading partner in ASEAN, 10th largest overall, and there is $17.2 billion in two-way trade, with $730 million in food and agribusiness exports. Malaysian investment into Australia is around $8.2 billion, and Australian investment into Malaysia is around $4.4 billion. There are around 300,000 alumni in Malaysia, which is really quite amazing, and 21,000 students currently studying in Australia. There are around 262,000 tourists from Malaysia coming to Australia, making it the 2nd largest source of tourists from Southeast Asia. And the Australian tourism brand is strong and well established in Malaysia, which provides good positioning for our food brands. The Australia-Malaysia relationship moved a step closer on the 1st of January 2013 with MAFTA. By 2017, 99% of goods will be tariff-free. There has been an increase in foreign ownership in key areas in Malaysia, including education, mining, accounting, telecommunications, investment banking, tourism and consultancy. And there has been economic cooperation between Malaysia and Australia in agriculture, automotive, tourism, e-commerce and clean coal technology. Most importantly, there's also been improved business regulations, including rules of origin and visas for Australians as a result of our close relationship. So, the major trends. Malaysia's new middle class is leading to a considerable source of demand for food products. Consumers are becoming more sophisticated, cosmopolitan, brand conscious, and seeking greater convenience and variety. There are more vibrant food retailing and food service sectors, as well as the food service industry, which is estimated to be worth around $5 billion annually. 60% of retail food sales are made through grocery and specialty stores. There's an increase in shopping centres and hypermarkets, with Kuala Lumpur being home to two of the largest mega malls in the world. The multicultural society is creating demand for a wide variety of food products and ingredients, including the premium and artisan sectors. Malaysia is an established market for Australia, but it now has renewed opportunities. There's a growing focus on quality, nutrition and safety. MAFTA will make Australian exports more competitive, and the Malaysian government is delivering initiatives to drive up the production of premium processed foods, which presents opportunities for premium ingredients and a chance to become a part of the supply chain. So we contacted our post in Kuala Lumpur and asked them to identify some of the food opportunities for Australia. And they've suggested that processed foods, artisan and gourmet products, functional foods, convenience foods, food ingredients, private label manufacturing, and hospitality and food handling are the areas that Australian exporters should focus. If we look at the big picture, agriculture is a major contributor to economic growth in Malaysia at 7.3% of GDP, and it's growing. Food security and boosting agricultural output are central tenets of the government's long-term goals. Government-led investments are aimed at moving from isolated agricultural practices towards agribusiness. And this entails increased integration across the value chain and greater utilisation of technology to enhance their output. They're focusing on the areas that will have the biggest impact on their national income, and this includes boosting productivity in target sectors such as aquaculture, fruits, vegetables, dairy farms and livestock management. But, on the other hand, Malaysia is still also a net food importer, importing more than 1 billion in food and agricultural products each year. Exporters really need to work with a consolidator because most customers have established relationships with specific firms in this market. The mid to high range supermarkets have around 70% imported products. And you really need to consider the right packaging for Malaysian conditions. English labelling is okay, but Malay language is recommended, and I'm going to come back and touch on this in a little more detail in a minute. Halal certification is also recommended for canned or processed products, but it's not essential. However, there are 12 halal agencies in Australia that can perform this accreditation for exporters. I'm now going to dive into some statistics. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that on the screen, but I will go through the main points. This information comes from the UN Trade Map Statistics, which is where countries around the world report to the UN their import and export data. It uses HS codes, and unfortunately, at the time I pulled this together, the 2014 data was not yet available because the year has only just finished. So the best I have at the moment is the 2013 data, but I am more than happy to provide an update of this information to AusVeg to circulate once it becomes available. So what I've done is, with the help of AusVeg, they identified a handful of particular products that might be of interest to the audience today. I hope I've chosen the right ones. And I'm just going to do a quick breakdown of what Malaysia imports from Australia, what Malaysia imports from the rest of the world, and how much Australia exports to the rest of the world. So if we start with broccoli and cauliflower, I'm using the HS code for cauliflowers and head broccoli, fresh or chilled. We can see that in 2013, Malaysia imported around 1,300 tonnes of broccoli and cauliflower from Australia. Australia, on the other hand, exported 3,600 tonnes of broccoli and cauliflower to the rest of the world. Primary destinations for this were Singapore, followed by Papua New Guinea, then Malaysia being third. Malaysia imports around 48,700 tonnes of broccoli and cauliflower from the rest of the world, primary source actually being China, who took out 46,000 tonnes, followed by Australia. We were second. Interestingly, our exports to Malaysia have increased considerably in 2013, although Malaysia's overall imports from the world remain steady. So that's comparing the first line of that table to the third line of that table, and it will be interesting to see when the 2014 data is available if that continues. Carrots and turnips. So for this, we're using the HS code for carrots and turnips, fresh or chilled. So we can see that in 2013, Malaysia imported around 14,000 tonnes of carrots and turnips from Australia. Australia exported around 73,700 tonnes of carrots and turnips to the rest of the world. Primary destinations being the UAE, followed by Singapore and then Malaysia. And Malaysia imported around 82,700 tonnes of carrots and turnips, again primarily from China, who took out 66,000 tonnes, followed by Australia being second. Australian exports of these products have been steadily rising into Malaysia over the past 3 years, we can see from the top line of the table. Lettuce. So this is using the HS code for lettuce, fresh or chilled. We can see that Malaysia imported around 143 tonnes of lettuce from Australia. Australia exports around 803 tonnes of lettuce to the world, primarily to Singapore and then to Malaysia. And Malaysia has imported around 980 tonnes of lettuce from the world. Again, no surprises, China with 449 tonnes, followed by the USA at 232 tonnes, and then Australia is third. And this is the last table of this sort. I've got potatoes, which are using the HS code, potatoes fresh or chilled. We have Malaysia importing around 8,000 tonnes of potatoes from Australia. Australia exporting around 39,000 tonnes of potatoes to the world, primarily to Indonesia, followed by Korea, Thailand, the UAE, and then Malaysia. And Malaysia importing around 185,000 tonnes of potatoes, primary sources being China at 96,000 tonnes, the USA at 22,000, Pakistan at 18,000, Bangladesh at 16,000, and then Australia. Malaysia has significantly increased its potato imports from Australia, with the figure doubling from 2012 to 2013, as you can see in the first line of that table. And again, it will be really interesting to see when we have the 2014 data available. So we asked our posts, what are customers looking for? And they said, most importantly, a constant stream of highly differentiated products that are tailored to the local market. They want support to develop brand position in the market, and they want people who are looking for long-term rather than opportunistic relationships. Also looking for products, services, technology, or know-how that will help Malaysia's industries to move up the value chain. Now, I mentioned I'd come back to labelling. This is a special note for the labelling required for those considering exporting to Malaysia. So the labelling requirement is set by the Malaysian Federal Agricultural Marketing Agency. It's complex and should be noted. Malaysia requires that each carton must be labelled, a sticker may be affixed to the carton in the national language, and the following information must be contained: the name and business address of the importer, exporter, agent, producer or distributor, as the case may be, of the produce, the common name of the produce, the grade, the size, the country of origin, the weight. The labelling information must be contained in an area not less than 11 centimetres by 7 centimetres and in no smaller than 20-point lettering. Our post particularly wanted us to put this information up and make it available, because it's terrible when people come unstuck on something that's really simply remedied. So what is Austrade doing in Malaysia? We have focused our work in the horticulture sector around differentiating our products and exporters as premium suppliers. And of course, we've been working with a broad range of industry and state and territory governments to build the case for a national brand for our food, as for a way to build a clear position for Australia and unite the marketing efforts of industry and individual exporters so that we're all building one big success story. We also see a strong role for Austrade in improving the coordination of industry and government overseas to increase our combined impact and the consistency of our messages on behalf of Australia. And through our international network, we've been working to understand the needs of our trading partners and identifying commercial opportunities. We then share these insights with the Australian industry and exporters, individual exporters, who are on the Austrade database. Now, you're lucky enough to be hearing from me again tomorrow, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail tomorrow about Austrade's specific services for exporters and how you can get onto our database and receive this type of information from us. Of course, our work spans more than agribusiness and food. The Australian Trade Commission, Austrade, contributes to Australia's economic prosperity by helping Australian businesses, education institutions, tourism operators, governments and citizens as they help Australian companies to grow their business in international markets, including through the administration of the Export Market Development Grants and the Trade Start program. We provide coordinated government assistance to attract productive foreign direct investment into Australia. We promote the Australian education sector in international markets and assist Australian education providers with market information and services. We provide advice to the government on its trade and investment policy agenda. We deliver Australian consular, passport and other government services in designated overseas locations. And we manage the Brand Australia program to enhance awareness of contemporary Australian skills and capability and to enrich Australia's global reputation. If you'd like to contact Austrade, you are more than welcome, firstly to speak to me when we break out. I'd love to hear from you all. But equally, we have a direct hotline number there and you can always speak to a trade advisor or the info@austrade.gov.au email address. I've also put up there the direct email for our Kuala Lumpur office. So if you have specific questions for our office in Malaysia, they'd be more than happy to hear from you. And also I've got some of our websites up there. I do also have a couple of colleagues joining me today. I'm not sure if they're here. They're at the back there. Hello. So I've got Nicola Kelly and Todd Miller. So they'll be around for the breakout as well. And so if you have questions, feel free to go up and talk to them. They're representatives from Austrade. Guys, could you just stand up for a second so people can see you? So I don't have 80 people coming to chat to me. They're also here to assist. All right. And with that, thank you very much.